A massive amount of thinking, like truly stupendous amount of thinking, has gone into sex without procreation, which is actually quite a silly action in the absence of procreation.
Well,
so why are you doing it? Because it makes the limbic
everything-
system happy. That's why. But it's pretty absurd, really. but I mean, this is a lot of computation has gone into how can I do more of that with procreation not even being a factor. This is, I think, a very important area of research by NSFW.
And it's a non-trivial technological problem. It's now possible for young men to look at more beautiful nude women in one day than any man has ever seen, prior to 10 years ago, 20 years ago, than any man in history had ever seen. That's not nothing. That's something. And to think that doesn't do anything to you, it's like, no, that likely does something to you. It's all pleasure with no responsibility. That's deadening. It's parasitical in a sense. And I'm not making a value judgment. I mean, it's no wonder the young guys are caught up in this because it's an unbelievably powerful technology. And so these guys are being blasted by what biologists call super stimuli all the time. So typical porn actress, not the amateurs, but the professionals, have their sexually provocative physical elements exaggerated. Mm-hmm. And so men are very visual in terms of their sexual processing. And so the guys are pulled into it, and they're pulled into it also by curiosity. But I think that ethically it's not good. And you might say, well, maybe there's nothing wrong with pornography. It's like, well, I don't know, man. Like, have you ever really met a guy who is proud of that? Like, you know what I mean? That makes him feel like, I'm the guy, man. I'm watching pornography and getting off. It's like, what a man. I don't believe anyone feels that. It's an easy out. That's the other thing, is what you should be doing is going out and finding someone to have a relationship with. So don't substitute the false for the real, and don't underestimate the utility of deprivation. What do we need to drive us forward to have the adventure of our life? Well, some deprivation. And maybe you need that. You're afraid to approach a woman. Well, you remove part of your drive with pornography. And so now you don't have that sexual urge to overcome that anxiety. And so you stay timid for your entire life.
A few years back when I started doing some public-facing education, I started getting a lot of questions, especially on YouTube, about pornography and masturbation. And here's my stance on this. I'm a biologist and a neuroscientist, not a psychologist. But what we know for sure is that if an individual repeatedly engages in this circuitry, let's say masturbation and pornography, with increasingly potent forms of stimulation that are on a screen, a couple of things happen. First of all, what's being reinforced? What's being reinforced is a high dopaminergic response to watching other people engage in sexual behavior, which is very different than being in a first-person sexual experience. Okay, so right there, that what's being reinforced is not actually any kind of improvement in communication skills. It's voyeurism too. And here I'm specifically talking about males. I actually don't know the literature on females.
Females don't use visual pornography to the same degree.
I see.
They use literary pornography.
I see. Without getting into a huge discussion about that, the point is this. Masturbation and pornography are potently tapping into the dopamine system and can undermine the very processes of which I consider healthy processes of finding a mate, dating, communication.
And it turns out abstinence or sex without ejaculation for a week or more will increase testosterone levels up to 400%.
Well, so how do you resensitize yourself in some sense? Well, you stop. And then hopefully you recover. And then you deprive yourself of that outlet, let's say.